So for today's product teardown on Build Great Products, we're going to look at a new product called Browser Agent. This was launched on Product Hunt a few days ago and won #1 product of the day. This professes to be another AI agent workflow tool, but it's browser based, and it kind of professes to be an easy to use tool that you don't have to have a lot of technical knowledge to get into. So I'm going to look at it today from a product design perspective, pull out some things that it's doing well, some things that it's doing not so well, and then at the end of the teardown, I'm going to give 3 key insights that you can use for your own products. So let's get into the teardown. Okay, so here we go. This is Browser Agent. I'm going to go a quick look through the landing page first, just the same thing that I did with Polymet, just to get an idea of what this is about. I don't really know anything about the product at the moment. You can see, as I said, it won #1 product of the day, so that's often it can be a good sign. Product Hunt can be a little bit easy to game, so sometimes it's not the best sign, but still good for them to get #1 product of the day. So what have we got here? Automate anything with free and secure AI. Create custom AI agents that run in your browser without a single line of code. Great. No API costs, no maintenance, full privacy. Okay, cool. So you get like the little UI kind of design like popping up above the fold here. I kind of feel like from a design perspective, this website would actually be better with a darker background instead of this weird gradient in the back. But that's just personal taste. It's not really going to have any impact. I actually want to look more at what does this workflow designer look like. So for AI agents, it seems like a lot of the time you're kind of designing workflows, it's chaining together multiple steps, and then at each step it can kind of go back and forth between different steps, depending on the output that's generated and how it's interacting with different AI models. There are other tools like this where you can create AI workflows to kind of create your own AI agents. What I'm kind of waiting for, or like what would be really good to see, and I think maybe Manus, which is a new AI agent product that's been talked about a lot recently and is in private beta, public beta maybe. What I would love to be able to see is like an AI workflow generator. So if I could describe the things that I want to do with the AI agent, and then have AI create the agent workflow for me off the back of my use case, because we're still abstracting the use case for this a little bit, and there's still effort in like pulling together the right workflow. And also, how do you validate like what's a good AI agent workflow or not if I'm a user, and especially for something like this where it professes to be good for people without any technical knowledge, particularly. How am I going to know if I'm chaining together the right things here? Like, what does a good AI agent look like, and what does a bad one look like? How do I know the difference between them? What's my starting point? So that would be something that would be really good to see. Pre-built workflows to get you started. Okay, great. So this is like they've created the workflows for me already that I can kind of build off. So these would be like my examples of like what I can do with the product, but also what a good workflow looks like. So it's my benchmark. So one thing that will be really good to see actually when I go through and sign up for this is, am I able to start from one of these templates when I first get into my account with Browser Agent, and how am I kind of directed and guided around the product to customize that workflow in order to get the best output for me? It's one thing that can be really good, which I know Manus does on their website really well. Instead of just having like pre-built workflows to get you started here, what they could do instead would be to actually show real use cases of people who are using the product. So other people have created like these workflows and they're for these use cases, and to almost create that kind of community library aspect around the product, where if I see someone else is using this, they've created a workflow that might work really well for me, I can then duplicate that, edit it, add on top of it. It's a bit like open source, transparent kind of workflow duplication creation. There can be community stuff around that, voted on like workflows that are good or bad, and I think that will really help for a lot of these tools. I think things like that will really help people to understand what is good and what is bad, and how do I create a good AI agent, and how do I identify what's not going to be so good, especially if you're giving like a level of customization like this with the direct like step editing. Yeah. Okay, select, connect, and run. Automate any task in seconds with a intuitive no-code workflow builder. So again, like these are abstracted in this node library, like text input, audio input, text output. It's really useful to see that, but I think like for a non-technical person, maybe you have to go one step further than this to what I was saying of like, here's my use case. Even if you still have to create that workflow yourself, tell me which nodes I need to do what. Like we're still missing this connection between like what these nodes are and what they do, and how do I get my intended output. And there's also like technical terms here as well, like string function, if else. Like I need to kind of know code or like technical terminology to understand what those do. One thing, I'll have a look at some of the other pages here quickly as well. So pricing, you've got free tier, basic tier, enterprise. Great. This is pretty standard for like early stage startups. Just get your really basic tiers down, some simple pricing. You can amend this as you go. One thing that I would say is that you can use hierarchy here even better to highlight the plan that you want people to go for, which is basic. And you could also introduce a price anchor for the enterprise to make basic seem more appealing as well. I talked about this in my previous video for when I was reviewing polymet.ai, but basically the enterprise price here can be like from 500 a month, and that will anchor, or even like from 100 a month, and that will anchor the pricing for this higher, so that my perception of the value for this product is going to be high because your enterprise plan is expensive. And then when I come down to basic, $20 a month seems a lot cheaper for that. You can use hierarchy here a little bit better as well by just doing reducing the opacity on some of these bits of text so that the buttons and the text here stand out a little bit more, changing the enterprise and the free tier to secondary buttons and having basic as the primary button. Also, these are kind of all different call to actions. The enterprise that I would expect to be a different call to action text, contact us, but upgrade through app is a bit confusing here. So I'm assuming that you have to sign up and then you have to upgrade, and maybe that journey isn't fully designed yet. Get started I would still say that maybe like get started is better in both instances here, because it's just clear what's going to happen. If I click upgrade through app, okay, it's going to take me to sign up, so I'm going to sign up through here anyway. So let's go ahead and sign up for the product. So let's sign up. Okay, here we go. We're in, we signed up, and we're into Browser Agent. So what have we got here? We've got our left-hand navigation, which is pretty standard. You have a banner at the top here. Welcome to our beta. Join the Discord community for support and feedback. That's great. I mean, I was going to say, like, this is the thing that you're focusing on most probably, is that banner, is because it's called out in a different color. That's okay in this instance, because for a beta, you're looking to collect as much feedback and get support from your community and build a community around the product as much as possible. So that could actually be like the primary call to action here. If you were designing this as a product that was out of beta, and also I'll use that context for kind of reviewing this product as well, that it's still in beta. If you were designing a product that was out of beta, you would probably want your primary call to action to be the highest contrast, largest, or in a warning color, or in a color if nothing else on the screen is in a color. So my assumption here is that this create new workflow section should actually be my starting point. you've got quick start tutorial here. I think, to be honest, you can, with a lot of, I'm going to say more complex, even though this is supposed to be designed for non-technical people. I would say for more complex products in general, you can kind of take people through the tutorial steps automatically when you get into the app. And one thing that was missing here, actually, which can be super beneficial for activating users, is to get the user to create their first thing through the onboarding process. So what I would have had here in this instance is almost the create new workflow journey is part of onboarding. So when I sign up, I then go into like a little few step kind of wizard, which is like, let's create your first workflow, describe your workflow and what you want to do. We've pulled some nodes together for you. Here's what your workflow looks like. Let's test it. Let's see what the output is, and then generate your first content and then save that workflow. And then you go into your account. And usually, like, the best thing to create in that onboarding process is the thing that's going to unlock the usage of the product for your users. So generally with a lot of products like this, there's something which is kind of blocking you from building that habit and understanding how to use the product. It's a new tool, so people have to learn how to use a new tool. And generally there's like one key action for that tool which unlocks like using everything else. So if I have a workflow here that I've already created, that's going to give me the confidence to build a new workflow, interact with nodes, share my workflow with the community, look at other people's workflows. Like, creating the workflow and understanding the workflow is really the core to like using and enjoying and staying, like, keeping on using this product for the long term. So I'd really focus on that in the onboarding for sure. Okay, so let's create a workflow. Actually, let's look at the tutorial first. So yeah, that's what I expected it to be, was just like a quick demo video, rather than like a stepped like through each of the sections. And it'll be interesting here to see, like, as I use the product and engage with different features, how am I being guided through using those different features as well. Let's keep an eye out for that. I'm just going to watch this video quickly so I've got context to the tutorial going into this and see what happens. Okay, so I watched the tutorial video, and the one thing that jumps out to me is that some of the stuff that these workflows are kind of demonstrating could actually probably be done with just a set of prompts that you're sending to ChatGPT. And also when they're kind of talking through the creating a workflow in the tutorial, the one thing that's missing is the context and the decision making of why am I adding all these things. And also it misses out the going from describing your workflow that you want to create into creating the actual workflow itself as an option for something that you can do. Now, maybe like this demo was done for a previous version of the product, that's absolutely fine. One other thing to note as well on the video is that there is a really annoying high-pitched noise in the background of the microphone recording. Like, there's a level of quality that I would expect from a product that I'm going to be paying money for, that you should just kind of meet that minimum bar. So I think one thing to kind of take out of that is just like, if you're building your own product or tool, don't forget about the details. So when you're recording audio, make sure that it's as clean as you can. But also on the other side of that, don't let the details bog you down. So one thing that I've learned from working with over 50 different startups as a product designer and founding designer is that if the value for something is good enough, users will sign up and use the product to get it anyway. And actually, to be honest, the chances are, like, a lot of users probably aren't even watching this tutorial, to be honest, because at the moment it is kind of like secondary in the hierarchy. Okay, let's create a workflow. So one thing that I want to try and do here is I'm going to go really complicated, and then I'm going to do some more simple ones as well, just because I kind of want to push this to see how far we can go with it. I'll have a look at the other areas in the product as I'm interacting with it as the first time user would. So describe your workflow. what I want to try and create here is a business plan and then a set of outputs from that business plan that's going to help me go away and actually start the business, or start the product. So I want to, let's write in here, I want to research products to help designers, but I want to, okay, so I've had to think about this based off of, but it was initially a bit too complicated. I think what I'm going to try and do here is break this down into a couple of different steps. So again, that might be something that could be useful for these AI agent tools, is to help users understand, like, if I have a large complex task, how can I break it down into different steps and then input that into these different agents as kind of like tasks to do. We would think of that as like, if you're familiar with being a manager or leading a team, how do you delegate all of these different jobs for a project that you're working on? But a lot of people don't have those skills necessarily of understanding how to delegate work in an effective way. And so even for like delegating to AI agents, that's going to be difficult if I don't know what work I want to give different agents, or even how to create different agents that are going to do different jobs that feed into my larger kind of more broad vision or goal. So what I'm going to try and write here is to research and compile data on to help me create a new product that will help product designers, research and compile data to help me create a new product that will help designers become entrepreneurs. Help me create a new product that will help designers become entrepreneurs, and give me a breakdown of market opportunity and competitors, and my give me a breakdown of product ideas, market opportunity, and my main competitors. Okay, it will also be interesting to see what happens when I submit this, and if it's too many steps or it can't figure out what to do. I just want to see what it kind of gives me back here. So let's do it. Okay, so this is taking quite a while to load. Again, I think the same feedback as with Polymet. If something is taking a long time to load, one thing that would be that's really good to do is to give the user really positive feedback. And the longer that it's taking, almost the more tangible you need to make it. So actually show like the things that it's creating here would be really useful to say, like, creating your workflow, connecting nodes, and that would be super useful. And also to give me an idea of how long this is going to take. So again, like if something takes really long or is a long loading time, you need to give users an idea of how long they're going to have to wait for that to actually work. So even if it's like, this usually takes a few minutes, or like even if it's really long, it's useful because then I can go away and do something else and then come back. Like this can take up to 10 minutes would be great here. Okay, AI-powered workflow creation is still in beta and may fail sometimes. Please try again with your request. Don't worry, we won't charge you any credits. Okay, let's try again. Let's just try the same thing again, see if it does it. If it doesn't, we'll change it. Okay, it's created a workflow. I was going to say, like, if it was going to fail again, I would say that, again, like one thing that could be useful with these tools is when I'm like describing a workflow that I want to create, is to give me tips or allow me to reformat that description to help the AI the best as well. And you can even use AI to do that. So if I wrote in my description of the workflow that I'm going to create and then clicked a button to say like optimize this to create a workflow, it would then like rejig the words that I've done and just say, because I have a tendency to use too many words, I know that, and so it would just be able to cut those out and rewrite it in a simpler and more concise way. So I would say like research and compile ideas for products that a product designer could build to help entrepreneurs, and it might cut that down to like research new product ideas for entrepreneurs, and that would be way more succinct. Like that's just an example. It loses some of the information there, but you kind of get what I mean. Okay, so it's created something here where I've got my workflow name, I've got the view mode, internal mode, side panel. What does that do? Workflow execution, enter your inputs and process the workflow. Yeah, I'm confused at what that is. Okay, so again, on like the tutorial and like the learning steps here for a product, one thing that's really good is to demonstrate features as users engage with them. It's something that I spoke about on my last video for Polymet. Like if I come into the workflow and then it can show, here's where your nodes are, here's how you connect them together, here's the next step that you might want to try, here's how you run the workflow, and here's some ideas of how you could improve the workflow as well. One thing that was really nice on Polymet, although they didn't quite get it right, was that there's AI suggestions for the designs that it generates on the feedback that you should give. So it's also helping people to understand like how they should engage back and forth with the AI. So we can do that here as well. I'm going to just move these apart. They are connected. I thought they were connected. One's not connected. I'm not sure when. So we've got here, so I asked it to help me to come up with to help me to research and give me data around new products that I could build to help designers who want to become entrepreneurs, basically. So we've got a prompt, research and compile data for creating new products to help designers become entrepreneurs. That's like almost exactly what I typed in. So I'm not sure. You've got enhance with AI, so you do have that there. You could have that back at the beginning to help me like enhance my description with AI. And then another thing like that's really good here is that or another lesson that you can take away from this is to use consistent interface patterns throughout your product. So if you have this enhance with AI button with this icon, like I'm now learning as a user that icon means enhance with AI. So if I go into something else and see that icon, I can click on it to enhance with AI. So I'm learning the tool as I'm getting familiar with it. So if they did that anywhere else, you would use that same format, same text or same icon, and I'll be familiar. Text input will be available when you run the workflow. I don't really know what that means. AI agent, user prompt, summarization. I'm not really... Okay, so these are like different tasks that an agent can perform. So generation, question answering, information extraction. So maybe this is better for like, if I have a document, I want to do some information extraction, output it in different formats. So let's take so I'm imagining like take a piece of blog content and then translate that into different types of content for different social platforms. The thing is, with this AI agent tool and with AI agent workflows in general, I feel like a lot of the value and a lot of the opportunity here comes in the abstraction layer away from the technical stuff, the technical side of things. So to help, like Browser Agent is trying to be like a very general, like all-round AI agent workflow creator. That might be good in some use cases, but I feel like there's more opportunity in building agents for really specific use cases and then abstracting this workflow creation away from the user. So I'm like the product and the company that should be based around my unique like agent workflow and my unique evaluation set that's going to identify like these are the workflows that work really well for this specific use case. We have these sets of evaluations which create really good output for this specific use case, and then we're going to launch that as a product where the user actually doesn't need to see behind the scenes of what's going on. Okay, so prompt. So if I'm going to try and think here, like if I was trying to come up with a new product to help designers become entrepreneurs, like what would I do? So I would probably do some research to find out what other tools there are available, what other products there are available on the market. I would do a list of features that all of those tools have. I would try and understand like what type of designers each of those tools are targeting. I would try and find like where the gaps are in each of those features. I would try maybe do some market analysis to see what's the size of the market for this type of product designer, and I would do some strategy on the branding, the product side, to identify like what's the message that we're putting out there, what do we want to stand for. What I would look at what problem, try and identify like what problem we're solving and how do I validate that problem. So these are all like workflows that could come off the back of that. This for me is like manipulate text, operation uppercase. I don't know why it's put that in there. And then text output. So this is not going to work for what I wanted to create it for. So let's go back. Let's create a new workflow. Okay, let's create a workflow. Not the AI-powered creation. We're just going to start from scratch and see what happens. So now I roughly know what I'm doing here. Let's add a node. So let's think about like if I want to create a new product to help designers become entrepreneurs, a couple of things that I'm going to do, and I'm going to build those into like a workflow and then understand and then get the output off the back of that. So one thing that I want to do is I want to do some research on competitors and then analyze those competitor features. So it seems that would be like a search, like maybe I want to search with, I would probably go to Perplexity to start doing that and look at and do some searches around that. So to create that in here, I wonder if it would be, it's either like cool API or like AI agent. I'm going to put an agent in, see what happens. Oh, I've accidentally got two. Let's get rid of that one. So translation, sentiment analysis. That seems more for like if I've got a document and I want to like extract data from it or something. So let's do a prompt and like see if I can send a prompt to, so the prompt is going to be research products that help designers to become entrepreneurs. Okay, so we're just let's just keep it basic for now. I would like to be able to click on out here and then add and then choose the node that I'm creating, like from a list, rather than having to add it and then connect them together manually. So that's just like one thing that you can do if you're building and designing a product here for this is just to that would have helped identify this maybe earlier on of like where users are going to want to click, is to create some you can do this really basically. So just create some static designs and put designs in front of people and just ask them to perform simple actions. So you could literally design this screen and you could say, okay, can you add a new node for me? And then the user would go, okay, start clicking here, and then nothing would happen. And if that happened a lot with multiple users, you'd get to see like, okay, people are clicking there. Now I appreciate this is a beta product, so a lot of the time, very early stage startups, you're not getting a lot of chance to do like user research. But I would always recommend like try and speak to like one or two people and like get their hands on something and just watch how they use it, because it will be so helpful to understand like where the difficulties people are, like where people are struggling with your product and what's going to really help them, like provide them a good experience. If this is a tool that I'm using on a day-to-day basis very regularly, I want this to be enjoyable as much as I want it to be functional. And I think now with so much more opportunity for AI to build these products and tools, the bar for like that product experience is going to be much, much higher. So if something isn't working or is frustrating, I'm going to go over to something that is more enjoyable and fun to use. And that's where I think these details do matter sometimes. So one thing that I'm always amazed about is how often teams and founders don't use their own products. And I would say that's one of the key ways that you're going to identify where you can make these experience improvements and where those details are going to be really important. Just like making it easy for me to click out there and to add another node on would be super useful. So let's keep trying to build this out and see if we can get something useful. I'm just going to do the research part of this for now. One thing that would be really good here is when the node is added, for it to just close this sidebar and then to add that into the main view. I've just added a load of these without realizing it, and they're all here. So let's do that. Get rid of that. So that out is going to connect to that in. Output will appear here. Let's just run it and see what happens when we run. So let's save. We've saved that. We've got just like, this is just sending a prompt and then the output's going to appear there. So what is it going to do? Let's see. Okay, so we need to send this prompt to an AI agent, I'm guessing. So let's delete that. So this prompt is just like an editing. I'm just editing that in a node. If I add an AI agent, click back here. So we're going to go user prompts. And then it would be really useful here, actually, if I could add dynamic content into these prompts. So if I can pull dynamically from different places to run this. So research products that help designers to become entrepreneurs. Say like I wanted to create a set of prompts for the on the user prompt side to run into this to then summarize. So say I had I'd written out a list of all these different prompts, and I also wanted to have a system prompt in here. Let's add a prompt, another prompt. So let's have something going into the system prompt side, and this would be behave. Let's keep this with the designers for now. I was going to do like a medical analysis. Behave like a senior level. Okay, this is really annoying to edit because I'm dragging. I can't edit the text in here to drag and highlight this. I just have to, because it drags that. So there's some like really basic stuff here, bug-wise, that needs to be fixed for this to be usable. I'm actually going to leave this workflow alone for now, and then let's start from a template. So you do have a browser extension here as well, so you can just run automate browser interactions, so you can run like these agents from the browser, but I'm still not sure like exactly what I would use that for. So let's say like we want to analyze a web page. So let's create a workflow around that. So analyze, let's try and generate a workflow. Analyze a web page and output the summary as a Google Doc. I don't know if there's integrations for this as well, so that would be one thing that would be super useful. I know like Zapier is a little bit more like connecting to these different services. This almost feels just like a workflow builder in the same way that Zapier is, but integrating AI a bit more deeply. So it feels like from a competitor point of view, Zapier is probably going to have like some features in there that are going to leverage these things anyway. So we want to like, if you're designing and building a product like this, you want to have a really clear like vision and use case of where this is going to go and like who this is useful for. So this may be really useful for like, a business or organization that is running like the same types of data analysis work like repeatedly, and they have someone who's going to manage all of these different workflows or different team, and maybe that part of that sales process. So if this is an enterprise product, maybe that sales process is about setting up those integrations for the company, setting up the workflows for the company, and that's kind of the demo that you're booking. This is positioned, this is like, again, this is slightly mispositioned, I feel like, because the product feels like more of an enterprise tool, and yet the positioning is more like a consumer tool. So yeah, let's see what's going on here. Open URL, opens a URL, read the web page. This node reads the current web page, and then can we go out? And then, okay, so these are separate, so we don't actually need that link, do we? It's going to run it, it's going to read the web page, summarizing the following web page content. Do we need to connect those? I feel like maybe we need to connect those. Let's connect those. And then the AI agent, just put it to summarization, and then endpoint URL is a Google Doc post. Again, like they could take a lot of cues here if this is a non-technical product from something like Zapier in regards to how it's handling APIs. I feel like, again, like that layer of abstraction needs to just be a little bit more to make this more user-friendly. It's quite, I would say this for like a product that's positioned a little bit for like non-technical users. This is quite a technical interface to get the hang of. Okay, let's save it. Install extension. We need the extension to be able to do this, because it is, so that would be useful to know if there's a requirement, like something that you can do for products when you're designing and building them, is just make it clear that like when I am using stuff that requires a specific thing, make sure that I'm aware of that maybe before I go into creating this. So that maybe just means just giving a bit more context here around installing the browser extension to say, like, if you use a node which is reading a website, then you need to install the browser extension for this to work. Okay, so this also has like a chat with AI in here as well, so you can just chat back and forwards with AI models, and it has a lot of AI models in here that you can load. No model is loaded to start off with. That just feels to me like one of those things where you should load the default model so that I can chat with it. That would just make sense. Let's just start from a template and see if we can actually do something here. Because so far we've spent a lot of time in the product and I haven't actually been able to do anything. So let's do the blog post generator. And maybe I'm being too ambitious with these. So let's see what this looks like. So this is going to be a text input, which goes into an AI agent. The prompt is generate a detailed outline for a blog post given for a given topic. This is still annoying, I can't expand that. The outline should include introduction, 3 main key point and conclusion. Okay, great. So this is generating me like a blog post outline. So I'm going to put the subject in here. So again, like for this text input, what would be really useful here is if I could like have multiple prompts in like a CSV or a spreadsheet, which had like all of the different subjects for the blog, and then to like generate the outline for like all of these 100 blog posts off the back of that would be super useful. So that's maybe an area where some improvements can be made. And I think again, like for those tasks, if you're building in a repetitive task into a product or something to make a repetitive task easier, think about how you can bundle those actions up into one thing. So how can I bundle like running this workflow multiple times into just like one time running it so that I get all of that output in one go, even if that takes longer to accomplish. So the subject is going to be new AI products. So new AI products, it's going to create me a blog post outline. It's generating that. Using the provided outline, create a comprehensive blog post, and then it generates it, and then the output for the blog post will appear there. Pretty straightforward. Let's save it. And let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so this loading is a little bit better. It's actually starting to like tell me the things that are going on. It's giving me some really good detail here about this loading, how much it's completed, how much time has elapsed. This is much better than some of the loading state that was happening before off of the AI generated workflow creator. It can take a while when we first visit this page to populate the cache. Great. What is perfect? I know exactly how long I have to wait for this. Like, there is some stuff here which maybe I don't need to know, like the number of caches or the amount of megabytes that it's using. Like, to be honest, you could just show me the information around how long it's going to take and what you're doing. You don't have to go into like too much detail. And there's a balance there for every product. So if you're building AI products, designing AI products, find that balance of like disclosing the right amount of information to the user as something is happening. An idea here almost is like, and this is where you can use UI to mirror the experience that the user has already had. So if I've created a workflow with all these different nodes in, you could almost on the loading screen show me it going through each of those nodes. If you wanted to have like a more visual loading thing here, because this is kind of taking me through each step. It's like, this is generating the response on this specific node. So like, can you just say like, attach the actions to the nodes and then show those actions loading as they're happening here would be really useful, even alongside like that overall percentage of completion. Okay, we've got some output. Great. So what I would do here is like, okay, let's add a node here where it's like, you go call API. Did I add it? It did add it. Okay, so one thing to say here is like, if I'm moving around the workflow board here and I add a new node, add it to like where I am on the board rather than back at the beginning. So I would say like, this is going to send it to a Google Doc and I'm going to connect and allow me to like just have like connect Google Docs to like connect to your Google Docs, your API, or like whatever it is. I think if you can make that step easier of like output it in a format that's usable for people, that's going to meet them where they are. So another really good tip for people building and designing products is to try and meet users like as much where they are as possible. So what are the documents that they're going to be starting from? Can we like let them input those documents? Where is the place that they're going to be working or like storing all those documents? Can we output the workflow into the place where they're already working? Send a message to like create a document in Google Docs, send a message to my Teams channel, and that's going to like help connect like the existing workflows that people have to using AI agents as a tool. Well, and that's where I think like there's a little bit of disconnect here where it's not like 100% working yet. Okay, I think I've spent enough time in the product, so I've got my 3 key insights. I'm going to go over them next, and that's the end of the teardown. Okay, so that was my teardown of Browser Agent, one of Product Hunt's #1 products for the day last week. I think there's still like a long way for them to go to make this a really usable and valuable AI agent tool for people. It feels like a bit mixed in its messaging. It's trying to go for like a broad appeal across a wide range of use cases, but there's a bunch of areas where it just doesn't feel like it's ready to go out to consumers yet, or that people should be. I don't feel like I would be comfortable paying for it in its current form. And for the 3 key insights off the back of looking at Browser Agent, I think #1 would be to try and meet users where they are as much as possible, or to exist in the space that they're already kind of working in. So for AI agents, they need to really connect to the tools that users are familiar with using every single day, to be able to connect to the APIs easily that they're using every day as well. So again, that speaks to where maybe Browser Agent is a more technical tool than they're trying to be. I think a lot of the messaging around it is about making AI agents easy for non-technical people, but actually it was still very, very technical and difficult to kind of understand some of the concepts in there. And I think that goes on to the second insight here off the back of using Browser Agent, which is really try and bridge the gap better between what users know and what they don't know. So we have these kind of assumptions and a view in media from what AI agents are and what they do. There's some really cool use cases for stuff like this for agent workflow creators, but what users don't know are things like, what does a good agent workflow look like? What does a good agent output look like? What's the right ways of connecting these different nodes together for different use cases? And how can I make sure that what I'm doing here is going to solve some of the problems that I have? And even like, what problems have you helped solve for other people that I can then replicate myself? And that's where I think that broad appeal is maybe trying to speak to lots of different people for lots of different use cases. And actually, when you go through and you use a product, you're not kind of like learning those steps as you go, or you're not able to like connect the concepts together as you go very well. And then I think the third key insight off the back of using Browser Agent is that you should really get users to create that main thing that they're going to be working with in the onboarding as part of that sign up flow. So create the account and then help guide me through creating my first workflow and get me to something that's going to give me like a usable output that I can actually already see myself using. That's going to activate users way, way quicker than anything else. Like if I can go in and successfully create or duplicate another workflow, get a usable output, have that exist in the place that I already work, and that's before I've even like got into the product and started using it properly, then that makes that proposition and that product so much more valuable for me. That's my teardown of Browser Agent. If you liked the video, subscribe, all of that other stuff. You can subscribe to the newsletter as well at buildgreatproducts.com, and I'll send you through new product teardowns every single week, as well as the best new products. And thank you for watching.